and welcome to the second video lesson. Please remember throughout the course of the lesson, take your time, move at your own pace. If you don't understand something or if I move too fast, pause, stop, rewind, or rewatch the video as much as you need. This is our second lesson. So it's still chapter 1, lesson 2. So we have 1-2, order of operations. Once again, please put the date. Hopefully it's August the 9th, but we'll go from there. So your title and your date as always. You can start this on a new page or at the bottom of your other notes. I don't mind as long as you keep yourself organized and on track. And as always, please write your I can statement right below your title. So by the end of this lesson, I can evaluate expressions using the order of operations. And that's our goal. So now to look at our vocabulary first. Our vocab starts off with order of operations. Order of operations is a rule to inform what operation, whether it be the operation to add, subtract, multiply, or divide, to perform first in an expression. So basically it's telling us what operation comes first in a big expression. So order of operations is a rule to inform what operation to perform first in an expression. Next is substitution. And substitution means to replace variables with their given values. Okay, that's all we're going to say right now for substitution. We'll come back to him later and talk about him more thoroughly and give some examples. Order of operations is what I want to look at first. A lot of people don't understand order and why it's important in math. So here's a little bit of why order matters, okay? If we were in English class and I give you the sentence, Kennedy said, Eric is very tall. And then I rewrite it and say, Kennedy said Eric is very tall. So if you look, the quotations are in different places in each sentence. So even though the sentence says the same thing, it doesn't mean the same thing. Same way in math. Just because you see the way the expression is written doesn't mean that's the way you need to evaluate it. And this is very important to follow the order of operations so we arrive at the correct answer. So knowing the order is very important. Now, the order of operations we remember from our grade school days as please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Now using this phrase or using the acronym that is where the first letters give us what we're doing, either way is fine with me, whatever best suits you. So if you remember please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, that's fine. Or if you use it as PEMDAS, P-E-M-D-A-S. So we have please excuse my dear Aunt Sally and PEMDAS. And if you see, I wrote it out as a chart, so go ahead and make this chart where we have steps and the operation and just a little T-table for it. And as you see, I wrote my PEMDAS down vertically on the lines. So our first step in our order of operations starts with a P and it's parentheses. And don't think parentheses is strictly just parentheses. It's all grouping symbols. So it could be brackets, braces, parentheses, it could be anything. So the first step is to evaluate the parentheses or your grouping symbols. Our second step starts with an E, and it's exponents. And so our first step, we evaluate all grouping symbols. Second step, we evaluate all exponents. Now the reason why I write steps out here is because I have 4 letters left, but I only have 2 steps left. Because we'll put these 2 all as being step 3. So our M is to multiply, and D is to divide. Now even though it's 2 things, multiplying and dividing, it goes under the same step because they're similar. And we have to perform them in order from left to right. And basically it's whichever one comes first, because if multiplication comes first, left to right, then I do it first. If dividing comes first, going left to right in the expression, then I perform that operation first. So multiply and divide get put into the same step. The same way, the next 2 do as well. A and S is the 4th step because they are to add and subtract. And once again, they're similar. Addition and subtraction are opposites. So they're all in the 4th step. And once again, we perform these actions in order from left to right. So even though we have 6 letters we keep up with our P, E, M, D, A, S is our PEMDAS, or our Please Excuse My Dear Aunt Sally. There's 4 steps. First step is parentheses. Second step is exponents. Third step is to both multiply and divide. And our 4th step is to both add and subtract in order from left to right, so whichever one comes first. Now, knowing these steps and what operation to use, we're going to move on to our examples. So example number 1 is 3 plus 2 times 3 minus 5. So using the order of operations, we have to first check all of our steps. Do I have any parentheses or any grouping symbols? No. So I can skip step 1. Step 2 is exponents. Do I have any exponents? No. So we skip that step and we move on to step 3, which is to multiply or divide in order from left to right. So we look. Do I have any multiplication or division? I do. Right here at 2 times 3. So I'm going to have to perform that operation first. So nothing happens to this 3 or the addition. It just drops down 3 plus. I do 2 times 3 is 6. Minus 5 drops down as well. So I've done my multiplication. We have no division. So we move on to our 4th and final step to look for addition and subtraction. So we add or subtract in order from left to right. So my 3 plus 6 comes first. So 3 plus 6 is 9. Drop down my minus 5 because I haven't used him yet. And for my final step, 9 minus 5 is 4. And once again, circle it or box it in so we can find the answer quickly. Now, moving on to example 2. We're given 15 divided by 3 times 5 minus 4 squared. Once again, we go back to our steps and we look at each one thoroughly. That way we know we don't make any mistakes. So step 1 is parentheses. Do we have any parentheses? No. So we skip it and we move on to step 2, which is exponents. So we look up here and we look for our exponents or our powers, and we have one. We have 4 squared, or 4 to the 2nd power. So I'm going to drop down the rest of this that I'm not going to use. 15 divided by 3 times 5. And I know that 4 squared is actually 4 times 4. And 4 times 4 is 16. So now I move on to my next step. I use my exponents. So step 2, check. So now we look at step 3, which is to multiply or divide in order from left to right. So if I start at the left side of my expression and I move over, 15 divided by 3 occurs first before my 3 times 5. So I'm going to have to first do 15 divided by 3 because it occurs first in order from left to right. So 15 divided by 3 is 5. I drop down my times 5 and minus 16 because I didn't use them. And we check. Am I finished with step 3? Oh, step 3. Am I finished with step 3, or do I still have to use it some more? I did my division, but now I have multiplication. So we need to perform that next. So 5 times 5 is 25. And once again, I drop down my minus 16. Now for my 4th and final step, and the only operation left, we subtract. 25 minus 16 is 9. So that's examples 1 and 2 using the order of operations. You don't have to show the brackets underneath the way I do. I just like to show what I'm using. 15 divided by 3 is 5. I did 5 times 5. So it's just a little bit of way for me to help you all see it on the video. So let's look at example 3 now. Oh, took away my extender page. Okay, we're just going to do this number. Alright, number 3. We have 2 and then parenthesis 5 plus 3 and another parenthesis 4 plus 2. Now here's where we have to make ourselves a little bit of a note so we're aware of something happening here. Just as we mentioned in lesson 1.1, if we have a number and a variable side by side, we multiply them. Same way here, if I have a number beside a parentheses, I multiply. So this parenthesis is actually telling us to multiply. And so we can't use him just yet because he's not really grouping anything together. So step 1, we look through our expression for grouping symbols that have something occurring in them. So we said 2 and parenthesis 5 means 2 times 5, so I can't do that yet. So 2 times 5 plus. Then over here I have a 3, and then inside this parenthesis, I can do that. I can do 4 plus 2. So I have to keep it inside a parenthesis, and 4 plus 2 is 6. Now, we check step 1. I still have grouping symbols, but they mean to multiply now. And I move on to step 2. Do I have any exponents? No. So we go ahead and skip step 2, and we go on to step 3. Step 3 tells us to multiply or divide in order from left to right. So we look first at the left side, and we have 2 times 5. I can do that. 2 times 5 is 10. And then, because I'm still multiplying, I can go ahead and multiply. 3 times 6 is 18. So 3 times 6, both this was multiplying. 2 times 5, drop down my plus sign, and now multiply 3 times 6 is 18. I get 10 plus 18 as my last operation. And step 4, add 10 plus 18 is 28. And now Number 4, I'm going to have to scoot him up real quick too. It has 2, then a bracket, 5 plus, parenthesis, 30 divided by 6 to the second power, or 30 divided by 6 squared, and then we close our bracket. So this is why step 1 is using grouping symbols, because over here we had parentheses, but over here we have a bracket and a parentheses. Now, whenever we have a bracket and a parentheses, we have to do what's inside first. Do inside first. So I look at my bracket, and I have to say what's in here that I need to do first. So we kind of treat him like an expression in, ooh, I apparently pushed a button. There we go. We need to figure out which one inside of the bracket we need to do first. So at the moment, we're not going to use our 2. I'm going to drop him down. I'm going to drop down my bracket because he's still there. I'm going to have to say inside this bracket, according to the order of operations, what would I do first? So step 1, look for parentheses. I have a parentheses, and I can do that. 30 divided by 6. So my 5 plus, I'm going to drop him down. 30 divided by 6 is 5. And my 5 is squared. Can't forget that guy. So 30 divided by 6 is 5. And if the parenthesis was squared, then I get 5 squared. Now we still look inside the bracket, and we say, what do I do next? So I'm going to drop down my 2 in my bracket so I don't leave anybody behind. And I say, I use my parentheses, now step 2 exponents. So I have 5 for the exponent of 2, so 5 squared. I'm going to drop down this 5, nothing happens to him, plus 5 squared is 25. Now, still looking inside the bracket, I have one last step, which is addition. So I'm going to drop down my 2 in my bracket again, and do 5 plus 25 is 30. Here's where I'm going to reference back to our last example. If a parenthesis and a number side by side tells us to multiply, then that means the same thing for a bracket and a number. So where they're side by side, that means we're going to multiply. So 2 times 30 is our last operation because he's outside of the bracket and he's inside, and they're the only 2 we have left. So 2 times 30 is 60. And we're finished. Now with this first set of examples, they gave us the expression